Veterans and moms have been showing up to protests in Portland in order to protect demonstrators against the violence and brutality demonstrated by federal agents. These are the federal agents who have been sent there by the Trump administration, and they have only escalated the violence in Portland and now, unfortunately, in other cities like Seattle. Now, Mike Baker, who's a correspondent for the New York Times, said that another huge crowd in Portland, including a new wall on the front lines, a wall of vets. Here's a look at the line of military veterans getting set up here in front of the federal courthouse. Behind them, a wall of moms and the wall of dads are arriving. Now, it's important for you to know who consists of these walls that are trying to protect the demonstrators, because Donald Trump thinks that they're very bad people. He has further demonized them, and I'll tell you how in just a minute. But first, I want to go to a video featuring Marine Corps veteran Dustin Obermeyer, who actually spoke to Mike Baker from the New York Times and explained why he wanted to be part of this wall of vets. Take a look.
We decided that based on the requirements of the Constitution, the constitutional oath we all took, we needed to be out here to ensure, and we contacted other veterans to be out here to ensure that our citizens did not have their right to free speech and their right to protest and their right to assemble taken away from them by federal security forces here.
Okay, and so you were in the Marines?
Yes, I was.
And when did you serve?
I served in the Marines from 2001 to 2011.
Okay, so there's a lot of wartime during that era. Were you deployed?
Yes, I was deployed 3 times.
And I mean, watching what has unfolded here, how are you feeling about, the direction of things, the direction of the federal government, and how the forces here are being deployed?
Our veterans are here specifically to support the rights of the protesters to protest. That's the only thing we're here for.
So there you have a veteran explaining the importance of protecting people's rights. I mean, we've heard over and over again that it's important to support our troops because they protect our rights. That was the exact argument that was used against Colin Kaepernick when he peacefully decided to kneel during the national anthem. People thought that it was incredibly disrespectful to veterans and to our troops. Well, now we know just how disingenuous they are, especially people like Donald Trump, because Lieutenant Bone Spurs has some thoughts about these mothers and these veterans. He said via Twitter, of course, these protesters are actually anarchists who hate our country. The line of innocent mothers were a scam that lamestream media refuses to acknowledge, just like they don't report the violence of these demonstrations. Now, we've shown you countless videos where both federal agents and local police have used violence against protesters who are doing absolutely nothing wrong. We showed you an example earlier today from the show where a Vietnam veteran was sprayed in the face by federal agents in Portland. But this is the kind of action, or this is the kind of commentary you can expect from someone like Donald Trump. He doesn't care about or value anyone, including mothers, including veterans, including anyone who he believes stands in his way of getting reelected. But honestly, the person who's standing in his way when it comes to reelection the most is Donald Trump himself, because he's giving various organizations like the Lincoln Project, which is right wing, and Midas Touch, which is left wing, great material to put out ads like this.
We're going to build a wall. It's going to be built.
Moms, aunts, and grandmas have come out to downtown Portland.
Close to 1,000 people out here. This crowd stretches about 2 blocks.
You are putting yourself in between the protesters and those federal agents, the most dangerous place to be.
Moms, along with everyone else, have realized it's time that we need to put our bodies on the line because the stakes are so high.
We are brothers, grandparents, aunts. We are a community that is going to stand united.
We're going to build the wall. We have no choice.
Moms are here. Let's stay clear. Moms are here. Let's stay clear.
And there was Midas Touch doing some great work. Emma, I wanted to get your thoughts on Trump's statements, because in 2016, Trump said some pretty hideous things about veterans he disagreed with. He said terrible things about Senator John McCain, who was a prisoner of war, and it didn't seem to hurt him in any way when it came to his base. Do you think that we're dealing with something entirely different today?
Unfortunately, I don't know if we can shake the age-old adage that basically Republicans are more in favor of veterans than Democrats. Republicans who more consistently in recent history have started offensive wars, even though many Democrats went along with it. Yeah, I don't know if that narrative is gonna end, unfortunately, but I wish it would. And I just wanna go back to that Trump tweet for a second, because he keeps saying the word anarchist. I would love if some journalist asked him when they get the chance, what does anarchist mean? He has no idea what anarchist means. I don't think he knows the definition, because he keeps repeating it to talk about these protesters. I just guarantee that's what he's heard in his briefing, and he does this all the time. He latches onto one specific word and then keeps repeating it. But again, for most people, and I know that all of these protests to me and to people on the left, they're really important, and of course they are. And the country was galvanized after the murder of George Floyd in a way that it hasn't been. It was one of the most important civil rights moments in the past 100 years. It's very significant what we saw. But for right now, as people are dealing with coronavirus and the economic fallout from it, that's really at the forefront of people's minds, not anarchists. Yes, people are mostly behind the protests and are in favor of them. And I love what the protesters are doing on the front lines. I'm not trying to discredit that. But I'm trying to discredit Trump's attempts to deflect, to only talk about the protests when people are racking up massive amounts of credit card debt because they can't pay their bills. When in this month, about a third of the nation was behind on housing and rent payments, or only paid partially or didn't pay at all. We have looming economic catastrophes, even worse than what we're dealing with now. And what we're dealing with now is really bad. So Trump talks about anarchists when he doesn't even know what the word means. I guarantee it.
No, but I mean, look, to be fair, I mean, anarchists would want to defund the police and then redirect that money to all sorts of programs that help people through the government. That's what anarchists are all about. Yeah.
Right, and I thought the Republican Party hated the government. Wouldn't they want it to be dismantled altogether? But suddenly, states' rights conservatives are in favor of federal officers against the states and cities and municipalities' will, gassing protesters who are exercising their First Amendment rights. That's suddenly what the states' rights conservatives are in favor of. Okay.
Yeah, and I love that you brought it back to something that's so important, which is the economic destruction that many Americans are already feeling, but will feel to an even greater extent very soon now that the CARES Act, at least the most relevant portions of the CARES Act that actually help the average American, is about to expire. So the more robust unemployment benefits, which were given by the federal government, $600 a week for those who filed for unemployment, that is coming to an end. It ends in late July, so we're there. And what we're hearing from the Trump administration and from the Senate GOP is that they refuse to sign on to extending that program because they think that people are earning too much through unemployment and as a result are deciding to stay home as opposed to go back to work. Look, that whole premise is complete and utter BS. We've explained it, I'll explain it again. If you are employed or were employed and were laid off or furloughed as a result of the pandemic, and your boss hits you up and says, you need to come back to work, we're opening up again, you need to come back to work. If you say no to your employer, you get reported and you lose your unemployment benefits. So all of these lawmakers using that argument are lying to you. And what we're hearing from the Trump administration is, oh, well, $600, that's just too much. Can you believe it? People actually had some money to save. People were able to pay down their debt. People were able to feed their children. We can't have that. So maybe we'll extend the program and only make it $200 a week so people can go back to remembering what it was like to starve, because that's what the Republican Party is all about. And anytime you hear that lie, I'm begging you as members of this audience, please use the rebuttal that I just shared with you right now, because so many Americans have fallen victim to that narrative. I mean, I've heard smart people in my personal life make that argument, and I'm just like, how do you not know how the law works? How do you not know that someone would get kicked off of unemployment if their employer wants them back at work and they refuse to go back at work? How do you not know that every time you receive an unemployment check, you have to prove to your state lawmakers that you're actively looking for work? Yeah, it's just this nonsense that I can't stand. Go ahead.
Too, Anna, like, they're trying to, the actually more sane GOP is trying to do $200 unemployment. The thing that Mnuchin and Trump and now the actual Republican Party is adopting is 70% wage replacement, which for some people would be even less than $200 because they're afraid that 1 or 2 percentage is a 1 or 2 percentages, great grammar, that they would get a little bit more. And so they're willing to be even more draconian and overhaul existing systems in the state governments, which would be devastating. The systems would break down in order to do that 70% replacement. So not to get off on a tangent, but that's what's being debated right now, and it could be devastating.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.